And I'm going to share my screen. And thank you, Rosalie, uh, for recording. Okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you. Okay. And is that the right display or do I need to change that?
Nope, that looks great.
Okay, great. All right then. So welcome to the NASA Idaho Space Grant Consortium webinar on our current opportunities. We're going to be focusing today on our higher education grants and K-12 and informal education grants. There's a lot of similarities here. Really what is some of the differences, who's applying and who's the intended audience for. All right. So as we mentioned, higher education grants, K-12 and/or informal education grants, regardless, both types are due February 16th, 2024. So you've got a little over a month to get those done. $25,000 is the max per proposal. They do require a one-to-one cost share. And if you are not familiar with cost share, we're happy you can contact us. We can walk you through it. But please know that it's very rare for that to be cash or it's not like you have to show up to our office with a bag of $25,000 and it's not how it goes. It's normally through in-kind time or if you happen to have another partner, like you've received a non-federal grant, for another project that you're going to be using within the same time frame or whatnot. But we're happy to give you more guidance if you're not familiar with it. If you are at a university and have an office of sponsored programs or similar grants office or a finance office, they can also give you some guidance there. But the thing to remember is that if it's going to be used as cost share, it needs to be allowable. And so we can talk about some of that a little bit later. But if you wouldn't put it on the grant, you can't use it as cost share, if that makes sense. So moving on, the period of performance is usually a year. This particular round of grants, they're funded from a base award that we receive from NASA that ends May 31st, 2025. Therefore, at this time, we will not be able to select projects that have a period of performance that go past May 31st of 2025. And so we will, since we receive all of the proposals at the same time, we will award between 4 and 6 of those proposals between the two solicitations. Now, it could be a little bit more if we end up getting a lot of $10,000 proposals as opposed to $25,000 proposals or whatnot. And we always take, well, obviously we have review committees who give their recommendation and then we balance it across the state and different institutions and who it's benefiting and things like that. So if we happen to receive 10 proposals for the same exact activity and one for not, we might give one to the one that is not replicating everything else. But that's very rare for that to happen. So we're super interested in broadening participation in Idaho, and we have a pretty broad definition of how we can get people engaged in the different populations we can get engaged, including, obviously underrepresented students that can be, in racial categories or low income, rural, first generation, and especially NASA's doing a big push on female students. So we are, which we love and we're all for. So those are the things we especially love to see. So again, we'll talk about each one of these a little bit more. This is just like a snapshot. So the higher education grants, those are, typically being executed by higher education students. if that makes sense. So if you have a team that wants to compete for a NASA prize or doing senior design research, or even just there's sometimes special courses or workshops that NASA's doing, or citizen science projects, all sorts of things like that. Again, the focus is higher education students. And as you can imagine, K through 12 and informal education grants are more focused on those populations, the K through 12 students, or after school programs, summer programs, things like that. That makes sense. And then we'll go on here just a little bit more on the higher education grants. And if you have a question on any of these, on whether or not your project idea, we can't tell you, oh, yes, we'll definitely fund that, but you can say, well, I'm planning on doing X, Y, and Z. Does that fall within the purview, of what you think these grants are covering? You can absolutely email us, and we'll give you the contact information at the end of the presentation. Again, we are looking for things that, with the higher education grants, that are really helping those higher education students make the decision that, like, a STEM career or a career in aerospace is something that they're interested in. And yes, sometimes that can be, we have a program that does sort of scholarships and extra math tutoring and mentoring for at-risk students, that are interested in STEM. But a lot of times it's those hands-on projects that really help them feel capable and things like that, or even to consider this, so there's just a world of different opportunities there. We put the evaluation criteria right in the proposal guidelines. So try to pay attention to that, so you can obviously see that the description and the merit of the project is the lion's share, but then things like involvement of underrepresented students is another big part of that score. And one note on that, and it applies whether to these higher education grants or to the K through 12, is that just saying, yeah, we plan to involve people that are underrepresented, is usually not enough for our review committees. They want to see either evidence of past performance, that you have successfully recruited these underrepresented populations before, or better yet, that, like, you have contacts, or you have a plan to say, I'm going to contact these folks and make sure they have, that we're talking about this project and how we can get their students involved, or whatever that is. So a more actionable plan. And then the alignment with NASA's activities, interests, or programs. So NASA does a ton of things. There's hardly anything NASA doesn't do. There's some researcher somewhere doing something you would never believe that NASA would be doing. But so if you have a question or you don't know where to find that, we have some resources on our website where you can look at that. And there's a link to that in the guidelines. And we will be posting this presentation on our website, so you can click all the links and all that kind of thing. But you can certainly look through the resources we have there, or if you're really struggling to say, oh, I'm really interested in earthworms and how do they apply to NASA, we will, or whatever that is, or international business, or whatever. Like, I am sure, I consider it my superpower to be able to try to find the way that relates to NASA. So happy to chat with you or answer emails about that. And then again, everything else is pretty much explanatory with, self-explanatory with timelines and metrics and deliverables. We want to know that you know how to measure whether or not you're going to be successful. And the one thing I would really say, even though it's only 5% or a combined 10% on the budget narrative and the budget detail, one of the things that we consistently see flagged by our review committees is when the budget detail does not match what the budget narrative says. You say, oh, I want $5,000 for students, and then in the, like in the budget narrative and then the budget detail, it says $7,000. So please make sure those things match. And also, we do have templates on our website for budgets. while you don't have to use them, they're strongly recommended because they sort of cover all the bases. And so that and again, they're meant to make it easy that what you want to do when you're applying for these grants, you don't ever want the review committee to go, what are they doing? And how, so the templates and the guidelines are all meant to give you as much uh, guidance as possible to make it easier to tell your story and what you're trying to do. And same thing on the K through 12 and informal education grants. There have been and the same sort of criteria like we've just run through, and we've had all sorts of things that happen as part of these K through 12 uh, grants. There's been drone camps. There's been solar eclipse viewing. There's been after school programs, all sorts of things. So there's a lot of creativity that goes on there. So it's again, it's more focused on those younger populations and or sometimes the public that if you have a really great way to help reach the public. Sometimes folks have applied for grants to us for like things like an aerospace day or this or that's meant for younger students and their parents and the public and things like that. Or they're partnering with a museum to do unique content and or bringing NASA content to Idaho and building things around that. All right. And there's obviously within those guidelines, really pay attention again to there's a lot of details about the budget and what's allowable and what is not allowable. Generally, well, not that you're going to get a lot for 25,000. You're not going to build a brand new building for 25,000. So things like construction or really expensive equipment are generally not allowable on these things. Same thing with like something that would be as the federal government would call souvenirs or like commemorative t-shirts or trophies. Unfortunately, I know kids love trophies. Don't get me wrong, but with this with current federal guidelines, we can't buy anything that's considered a souvenir. And again, if you have questions on those, we can talk about that. There's a couple of other opportunities that are also available that that we are collecting at the same time, and that is for smaller grants. Let's say that you are interested in taking a couple of your higher education students to a conference so that they can present maybe they had a paper that you worked on or whatnot. That we are considering those as well at this time, and all of the information is again on the website. It's a slightly easier application because again the maximum on that is $5,000, but the cost share is still required. It's a 1-to-1 cost share. So that would typically look like a faculty member accompanying two students to a conference and the faculty member sharing their time, if that cost sharing their time or whatnot. And I'm going to try to go through the rest of these a little bit faster so that we have more time for questions. Now, this is the same sort of thing, but it's focused on K through 12 and formal ed, where, let's say that you have a class that has been preparing for a robotics competition, like first or something, at the high school level, and you just need travel funds to get to that competition. That's what these sorts of grants are for. Again, not to exceed 5,000. We had a group last year that traveled to a rocketry competition. And again, we're trying to collect these a little earlier this year. We used to have these more on a rolling basis, but we'd like to get some in by the February 16th as well, so that usually we wait till we've awarded all the big ones and then we award these, but we thought we'd give an opportunity to folks who are planning ahead for the next school year, so that they could sort of get this money sectioned off for that, so that they don't have to sort of wait for the crumbs, so to speak, of what is left. And again, all the information is on the website, and that we can answer any questions that you might have. a lot of these, so these are some of the activities and resources that you can use. Um, the first two, the NASA Technology Taxonomy and TechPort, those are more if you're looking for different research projects or what sort of things NASA's doing. I certainly, so if you're looking for like a senior design team, there's a couple of others. And now I think about it, I don't know if Matt, if you have if we want to put the link up, we'll put it on the website, maybe to the T2U program that NASA does, where they try to partner with universities on sort of licensing different NASA technologies for student teams to work on. The NASA Office of STEM Engagement, that is a great place to just explore all the things NASA is doing by grade level and by audience level, so you can get an idea of some of the challenges that students can participate in, or citizen science projects. All those things are there. And then you can also take a look. NASA, for those of you who are not aware, NASA is divided into 5 mission directorates: aeronautics, research, exploration systems, space operations, space technology, and science. Aeronautics is pretty obvious, as is science. Exploration systems, that's more like the folks that are building the systems to go to the moon and onto Mars. Space operations, that's more about ISS research. These are very, I'm very much simplifying. And then space technology is sort of NASA's R&D arm. They're the ones that are trying to develop those very low technology readiness level technologies that can then be incorporated into NASA missions later. And of course, you can always ask us. All right. And so regardless of which type of proposal you are submitting, they all go through the ISGC solicitations page under submit proposals. Here, you'll see this is highlighted. And so there's the couple of different templates. There is a UI template versus a non-UI template, just because even though we are a statewide program, we happen to sit at the University of Idaho. And so there's a different template if you are a proposer from University of Idaho as opposed to from Boise State or ISU or whatnot. If you're not a university, there's another template here that you can use as a guideline. Again, you can make modifications, but it's there as a guide. And then when you click submit a proposal to ISGC, it'll take you to this page where it will say, okay, select which one you are submitting. So you'll select one of those, and it'll pop up another page where you basically are just putting in your contact information, your project title, what institution. If you are at a UI institution, you do need to put your UI, if you're a UI researcher or proposer, you need to put your VERIS proposal number, how much you're requesting, and then cost share, your mailing address, if you have any other comments. And then you basically upload, you'll be uploading your PDF file, which is your proposal and your budget as an Excel file. If you are a University of Idaho proposer, you will need to do a cost share allocation form, that sort of thing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. So we just need to, yeah. And then statement of work. The statement of work is just basically a one-pager that if you were to be awarded, you would say, this is what we would get done with this particular and when. So that they usually would, it's just to save a step later on. If you have questions about that or you're not confident on that, we can help you with that. And then finally, here's all of our contact information, which is lovely. The thing to consider, and you can certainly call us, although sometimes our phones are a little funky since we moved to Microsoft Teams, but we always answer emails. And just be sure to check our social media. And then let's see. And this is just one reminder for those of you, we also have some other webinars happening this week. There's, for those that are doing research, we have an Idaho NASA EPSCoR webinar tomorrow. about research initiation grants and other opportunities. And then on Thursday, we have a webinar for students to find out about internships and fellowships. So if you have any students you want to pass that information on to, we also have that information on our website as well as our social media. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and then open up for questions. Oh, Christine, did you have a question? Oh, except you're on mute.
Yes, I've remembered to do that. Oh, I'm thinking my questions, so give me a moment.
Oh, not a problem. Matt and Rosalie, what did I forget? I was so brilliant, it was perfection.
I think
Well, you have given this more than once.
Just once or twice. What were you gonna say, Rosalie?
I can't think of anything else to add at the moment.
Okay. Does anyone have any general questions? Otherwise, then we will stop the recording and then we can answer individual questions as you feel comfortable asking them in front of the audience here. Okay.